Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Shri Radhe Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Gaur Premanande Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we're reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo, and chapter is 31. We're continuing Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. And today's verses are 33 and 34, because though they both have purports, they are in the same theme. So the theme of the verses are the same. Yeah? So I'll recite 33, and then we can recite 34 together, like that. Okay? Satyam socham dayamonam buddhi shri hari yashakshama samodamo bhagas chesti yat sangat yati sanshayam I'll just read the translation and purport, and then we will do the next verse together. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. He becomes devoid of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all such opportunities. Purport. Those who are too addicted to sex life cannot understand the purpose of the absolute truth, nor can they be clean in their habits, not to mention showing mercy to others. They cannot remain grave, and they have no interest in the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is Krishna or Vishnu. But those who are addicted to sex life cannot understand that their ultimate interest is Krishna consciousness. Such people have no sense of decency, and even in public streets or public parks, they embrace each other just like cats and dogs and pass it off in the name of lovemaking. Such unfortunate creatures can never become materially prosperous. Behavior like that of cats and dogs keeps them in the position of cats and dogs. They cannot improve any material condition, not to speak of becoming famous. Such foolish persons may even make a show of so-called yoga, but they are unable to control the senses and mind, which is the real purpose of yoga practice. Such people can have no opulence in their lives. In a word, they are very unfortunate. So verse 34, we can recite together, please. Teshavashanteshu mudeshu Teshavashanteshu mudeshu Khanditatmasva ashadeshu Khanditatmasva asadushu Sangamna kuryacho yesu Sangamna kuryacho shieshu Sotit krida mrigeshu cha Teshavashanteshu mudeshu Khanditatma svasandushu Sangamna kurya chochieshu Koshit krida mrigeshu cha Eshvashantu mudeshu Khanditatma shasadeshu Sangam nakurya chochieshu Koshit krida mrigeshu cha Teshavashanteshu mudeshu Kanditatma svasadeshu Sangamna kuryas chochieshu Yosit krida mrigeshu cha. Vaishnavis. Keshavashanteshu mudeshu Kanditatma shavasatushu Sangamnat kurya chochieshu Yoshit krida mrigeshu cha Teshvashashanteshu mudeshu Kanditatma shavasatushu Sangamna kurya chochieshu Yoshit krida mrigeshu cha. Word for word. Teshu, with those. Ashanteshu, coarse. Mudeshu, fools. Khandita Atmashu, bereft of self-realization. Asadushu, wicked. Sangam, association. Na, not. Kuryat, one should make. Sochieshu, pitiable. Yosit, of women. Krida migreshu, dancing dogs. Cha, and. Translation: one should not associate with a coarse fool who is bereft of the knowledge of self-realization and who is no more than a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. Please repeat. One should not associate with a coarse fool who is bereft of the knowledge of self-realization and who is no more than a dancing dog in the hands of a woman. Purport: the restriction of association with such fools, the restriction of association with such foolish persons is especially meant for those who are in the line of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Advancement in Krishna consciousness involves developing the qualities of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, intelligence in spiritual knowledge, simplicity, material opulence, fame, forgiveness, and control of the mind and the senses. All these qualities are to be manifested with the progress of Krishna consciousness. But if one associates with a Shudra, a foolish person who is like a dancing dog in the hands of a woman, then he cannot make any progress. Lord Chaitanya has advised that any person who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and who desires to pass beyond material nescience must not associate himself with women or with persons interested in material enjoyment. For a person seeking advancement in Krishna consciousness, such association is more dangerous than suicide. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada ki jai. In his new book, 4 questions, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu quotes in the preface a Bhagavad Gita verse 647. He says, "The best of yogi is the one who serves me in love and devotion." He goes on to say that what is the meaning of the word sadhu? He writes, the goal of yoga is sadhya and the practice is called sadhana. And so the practitioner is called a sadhu. So I say pranipat to all the wonderful sadhus who've assembled here. And I seek your blessings and guidance as I feel very insignificant having had a marathon of wonderful speakers, and then I'm stuck here in between. Sitting on this Vyasasana, I feel very unqualified. But I seek your blessings. But I also feel empowered that as a result of your presence here, all the difficult questions at the end, I will simply put them forward to yourselves. So please accept my humble obeisances and guide me and keep me honest whilst I do this seva for Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So, industries thrive on it. Pop stars sing about it. Teenagers dream about it, and people are willing to do practically anything for it. To love and to be loved. The everlasting universal dream, isn't it? Though we wholeheartedly endeavor for that perfect connection in our material enjoyment, for the most part, it's a letdown, isn't it? You may have come across that. I certainly did in my previous life to ISKCON. And the story of life is more of a case of frustrated love. Last Christmas I gave you my heart, and the very next day you gave it away, isn't it? Isn't that the famous song that goes? Last Christmas I gave you my heart, and the very next day you gave it away. You gave it away. And so this is the material world that we live in. Teenagers have sleepless nights over it, but we know that the procreator, in order to show love, prema, it's a different goal altogether. Unfortunately, in this material world, as Srila Prabhupada says in this purport to verse 33 that we just read, he continues in his theme for the past few verses on this lack of, or warning us against these illicit sexual encounters. Now in the purport you will see many items are listed. Mercy, cleanliness, truthfulness, gravity, but he's focusing on illicit sex. In his book Bhāgavatam, His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj states the word sex 18 times. Now, I don't know whether you know the book Bhāgavatam. How many of you had seen this book Bhāgavatam? Yeah, very few. No, it's a very recent sannyasi. His name is His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Swami. He's disciple of His Holiness Kadamba Swami Maharaj. He's written a summary of the Bhāgavatam, and in that book he references sex 18 times, but the word love 160 times, and pure love 26 times. Now this is a summary book which is only about 900 odd pages, but imagine this word in the Bhāgavatam, how many times it would have been referenced, because Prabhupada is so emphatically telling us that the nature of illicit sex we have to really stay away from. Hence the whole of the one principle of the four regulatory principles is governed just for this. Book Bhagavad is a very nice book. It's a summary of the Bhagavatam organized in easy to remember acronyms. I'm not trying to sell you the book because I don't think we even have it. But the fact is that it is easily available on his blog, Tattva, etc. It's acronyms whereby you remember what is the content based on the acronym of the canto, like that. And so, on Canto 5, Chapter 5, Verse 8, Srila Prabhupada says, sexual attraction is the basis of material life. And this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada quotes some 200 times during his lectures, lessons, morning walks, etc. like that. Why is that? Because it is such an important instruction for us to understand that indulging in sexual acts is the one principle that we ought not to break. Of course, all of the regulatory principles we must adhere to because they are very prominent. We've been given that. Our consciousness at the time of death needs to be away from lusty thoughts. And Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, those who think of me at the time of death come to me, isn't it? And so what happens is that otherwise, when we think of lusty desires, we become cats and dogs, like it says in the purport. If we want a life of cats and dogs, then fine. Let us not follow the regulatory principle, but let us carry on with our material desires and follow the mind rather than following the service of Krishna. And we ought to remember that lust doesn't just mean sexual desire. As His Holiness Janardhan Maharaj said in his class a few days ago, that lust actually also portrays towards the need to have fame, recognition, prestige, all of these things. And so our mind, when we think of just illicit sex and lust, it is obviously going towards that carnal behavior, but actually on a more subtle level is to do with, okay, I want prestige, I want fame, I want to be recognized, I want people to, pay me respects, etc. So it's a very, very strong desire that we have within us to be able to want to have this carnal ability. Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita verse 337, Kama esha, Krodha esha. The word Kama is specifically reserved for lust. Rajaguna Samodhavan, Mahashano, Mahapapma. Mahapapma is the greatest sin. So lust, actually, association with lust is the greatest sin. And so, Krishna says to Arjuna, lust is the only thing that is born of contact with material energies, material mode of, anybody know? Material mode of? Passion. Yes, passion. And later transform into wrath, which is the all-devouring, sinful enemy of this material world. And he goes on in the purport to say that lust is the greatest enemy of living entity, and lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. That is the pure living entity. What to speak of us? We are continuously bombarded by many aspects of this specific desire, isn't it? It's my second time here in US. I thank the authorities here for allowing me to come and spend some time here. And I was privileged again to visit Times Square during our festivities a couple of days ago. And Times Square is a huge depiction of this lust. The material desires are everywhere to be seen. In London, there is a very tiny replica of Times Square, which is called Piccadilly Circus. And yes, it's a circus in its own right, but here, my God, I was blown away by the magnitude of mind enlightenments that are impressions that are printed upon us as soon as you just come out of the subway. In fact, it's better sometimes to just stay in the subway and not come out on the surface level, because you're going to get bombarded by so many lustful things that are going on in your head. So much so that we were doing Harinam with His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj. He's an eccentric personality, as you know. And there were personalities on this Times Square of many, many kinds. And one of them was just completely, practically naked. He just had a very slim waist pant, I suppose, and he was just trying to make money in his own way. And Maharaj, in his innocence, flashed the Mahamantra card to him and said, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the guy was completely bewildered. He was like, Maharaj is so transcendental. He would induce anyone to chant the Mahamantra because he knows the real purpose of the Mahamantra is to actually get these personalities out of the mentality of cats and dogs. Because if we are always there, then the trajectory is downwards. The trajectory, unfortunately, is not upwards. But by the blessings of Maharaj, who knows what will happen to this person? That he actually even just saw the Mahamantra, isn't it? And so to be elevated out of mode of ignorance to mode of goodness, there is a prescribed process, says in that purport of the Bhagavad Gita. There is a way of acting and a way of living. And then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath to come to the spiritual attachment by spiritual activities. Material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill their lustful propensities. So it's actually been created because that is what we wanted to do, to lord it over material nature. And so when we are completely baffled after prolonged activities of this lording over, then hopefully we will inquire as to the real position of this material conditioned life. Isn't it? That's the beginning of Vedanta Sutras, which is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. I'm sure all of you know. So the origin of source is the Supreme Personality Godhead Himself, and this is transformed as love in the spiritual sense, but actually in the material sense it is only lust. So then the natural question comes to mind as to how we should practically make both lust and wrath our friends, instead of them becoming our enemies and degrade us, just like the personalities we see on Times Square and other places around the world. We have to protect our consciousness by any means, and I mean any means, whether it means you put barbed wire around it, whether you put electric fencing around it, whether you have armed guards around your consciousness, whatever it takes. Protect that consciousness, because that is what is going to carry you through the material life, but actually also through the spiritual endeavor and the last test and the last hour of our life. In Canto 3, in this canto itself, chapter 24, verse 35, the purport, it is said about Kardama Muni. I'm sure you all know about the personality. Kardama Muni practiced yoga for a very long time and rigidly as a brahmachari. Before his marriage, he became so powerful and attained so much mystic power that his father, Lord Brahma, ordered him to get married and beget children as a householder. Kardama Muni did that also and begot children, 9 good daughters and a son called Kapila Muni, which is the canto that we are talking about here. And thus this householder's duty, after he performed it so nicely, he followed on to that duty and left. Even though he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he had to respect the authorities. Lord Kapila actually instructed him that you must go and take Vanaprashta. This is a very, very important lesson for all of us. In that even if God is our son, one should still follow the Vedic injunctions. And Keshava Swami continues to describe the orders of life. He calls it the orders of life in his own Keshava Swami style, which is none different to the 4 ashrams. Would you like to know how Maharaj defines the orders of life in his book? So he says, the first order is learn. Learn in the Brahmachari ashram. The next order is earn. Earn in the Grihastha ashram. The next order is turn in the Vanaprastha ashram. And the final order is return in the Sannyas ashram. So learn, earn, turn, and return. And I'll explain that. This is a very, obviously as we know, is a very nice Vedic model, the life cycle of every individual who progresses through the 4 ashrams or the stages of spiritual advancement. Student life, brahmacharya, married life, grahastha, retired life, vanaprastha, and renounced life, sannyasa. Obviously, each stage facilitates its own aspects of internal development, which is the key part, internal development, and prepares one for spiritual perfection at the final hour. Now, obviously, some individuals may prefer to go from brahmacharya direct to sannyas, or go through the whole process of the orders of life, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, like that. So various skills are developed in each of these stages of life. Brahmacharya, you develop certain skills, certain arts of working, but especially the spiritual foundation that is needed to uphold all of those foundations of the orders of life of the later ashrams. Grahasthas, obviously, which is the second stage, typically between 25 and 50, who marry and raise a family. By engaging in suitable work, they earn a living in the world. With those earnings, they support the family, but especially also support the other social orders, the orders of life. And then their mode is dutifulness and selflessness are essential qualities to develop in a family context. Now, obviously, what happens is some individuals, they may not want to go into a grahastha situation. They might want to carry on in their brahmacharya life because they feel that there is more to give into the material world and help the progress of Krishna consciousness by helping Srila Prabhupada in his mission and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But some may want to enter into the Vanaprastha life at the age of 50 through Grahastha, and they may want to help that detach from that complex network of the family setup and resume a life of spiritual austerity, handing over aspects of the worldly responsibility to the grown-up children like that. And then finally, for some, the sannyas order is also available who want to enter into a mature spiritual perfection through renunciation, like that. And so Kardama Muni took Vanaprastha and obviously sannyas, and actually the whole system of this Vanaprastha is a very scientific setup whereby Vedic culture ensures that every stage of life has meaning and value for attainment of spiritual enlightenment. Hare Krishna, welcome. So like that, Lord Kapila Dev encouraged his father not to deviate from the scriptures, and he assured him that the Supreme Lord, he would always be his father residing in his heart. So wherever he went, he would be with him. So then again, we learn about Vani and Vapu there also, and the need to have that detachment. Nowadays, of course, it might not be possible to enter the brahmacharya life at the age of 5 and so on. However, the principles are the same. Learning and spiritual advancement in the brahmacharya ashram and then in the vanaprastha ashram to turn the emphasis towards spiritual cultivation and significantly reducing the material encumbrances is really what's required for that final test at the final hour. Because that is the real key. But then to maintain that through our life, we require certain support network, isn't it? We talked about association. We talk about the key subject matters of the right type of association, which acts as one of our protections, along with the barbed wire of our consciousness, the armed bodyguards, and so on. We have to be very, very careful to protect our consciousness. Because the more we do that, the more we associate with like-minded personalities, spiritual personalities, our progress is secure in this material navigation. So along with his appreciation of many Vaishnavas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also established a very nice spiritual culture and principles for correcting others. As we know, through a variety of incidents, he highlights the dangers of fault-finding, philosophical deviation, pride, and this aspect of inappropriate association. Obviously, we know the story in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Leela, chapter 2, verses 101 and 121, about Chota Haridas. I'm sure all of you, many of you know about the story of Chota Haridas. A renunciate living in Jagannath Puri was requested to get some rice for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He approached an elderly lady, Madhavi Devi, who was highly respected devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated the rice, but immediately questioned where it came from. When he discovered that Chota Haridas had inappropriately obtained the rice from a lady, he became angry and banished him, considering this deviation from the principles of sannyas. As we know, sannyasis ought to not be left alone with any women association or female association. But devotees during this pastime encouraged Haridas, but he eventually committed suicide by drowning himself in Prayag. Thereafter, unknown to devotees, Haridas received a spiritual body and had the great fortune of associating with and receiving the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we understand that these instructions, they give us ability to see how we can perfect our spiritual life, perfect our Krishna consciousness. These are instructions for pure devotees. I am certainly, you guys are all elevated. I can see you already knocking on the door and the door will open into Vaikuntha, right? I'm talking about myself. These are instructions for pure devotees, and they are there to guide us. As we hear more and more pastimes of Lord Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said that the more we associate with these pastimes, the less we become lustful and our desires of sexual encounters become diminished. Because these pastimes enlighten us and makes us understand and more attracted to Krishna consciousness and the service of the Lord, rather than being in the mindset of our carnal desires, which we are originally why we came in this material world in the first place, to lord it over material nature. So there are many nice pastimes in Canto 10, chapters 29 to 40, youthhood of pastimes of the Lord. There's a very nice special pastime in that the Lord performed many of these pastimes. And as I said, the conditioned souls who are attached to sense gratification, of which sex desire or lust is one of the highest and most entangling, by meditating on these pure pastimes, what happens is our hearts gets cleansed, and then we are freed from these lusty desires, lusty tendencies. I'm conscious of the time, this 10 minutes. I wanted to also touch on two aspects, lust and love, and then pure love. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever loved? If you want to put your hand up if you've loved. Wonderful. So nice that even though we are in this material world, we find the ability to connect with a person and to actually unconditionally serve them. Would you then say that that is pure love? How many of you purely loved? Obviously, pure love is given towards our Ishtadev in terms of service, an unconditional nature of disposing our service to that Ishtadev. And so, Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, chapters 7 to 11, there are many descriptions of the personality who have loving exchanges with Krishna, isn't it? Pure love is awakened of Krishna, which is lying dormant within our hearts. It's available to us already to access. For example, love of Arjuna for Krishna. They were related, they were friends, they were guru disciples, there were many aspects. In fact, there were Nar Narayan Rishi even before. But there was an intimate love between them two. There was pure loving exchanges between them. Love of Uttara. Uttara, she could have actually, when the Brahmastra was coming towards her, or rather her womb, she could have gone to Yudhishthira Maharaj, Bhima, Arjuna, but no, she went straight to Krishna. Because she knew the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and her love for Krishna that she would protect her womb. Not the protection of herself, but her womb, which carried, obviously as we know, the personality of Parikshit Maharaj. Love of Kunti Maharani. She said to the Lord, give me as many obstacles as you can, so at least I can remember you every time that I have to face these obstacles. Love of Bhishma Dev. Yes, we know that he's lying on the bed of arrows. And yes, when he's imparting knowledge, transcendental knowledge to Yudhishthira Maharaj, Draupadi is saying, where was your transcendental knowledge when I was being disrobed? Isn't it? And obviously Bhishma Dev says, yes, by lying on this bed of arrows, the blood which was tainted by the bad association, by the taking of the foodstuffs, I'm being purified. And so my consciousness, my mind is actually able to impart this knowledge to Yudhishthira Maharaj. And of course, in the right state of frame of mind, if in the right association, he would have stood up for Draupadi. We know that. And then the love of Hastinapur residents in separation of when Krishna was leaving. And of course, the love of Dwarka's residents in the union when Krishna arrives. When they all announce, when Krishna blows his conch from afar, they leave everything and then they run towards, oh, Krishna's come. Everyone, society, ladies, as well as all his friends, family, all the vasis. There's a very unique love, and of course, the pure love of the gopis. This is really what we are trying to aim for in our journey towards Krishna consciousness and also towards our last hour in our existence. So I thank you for listening. Thank you for patiently listening, and I wait for your corrections, chastisements, and questions. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Is there another mic?
Yes, is there a mic? I think there's one.
So not to waste any time, second count.
I'll just
Start. Oh, here it is. Thank you. What's all this?
This one is.
I have to hold this? Or?
Yeah, it's so they can hear on the recording here. Let me put it like this.
I'm not up to date on all this technology. In his preface, he was guided how to write it, but Dr. George Harrison of the Beatles, he says, I think at the end of the preface, he says, all you need is love. And in parentheses, he puts Krishna, which is very correct. This is sort of, we call it a devil's advocate type question. We can say people may question, because the Bhāgavatam is supposed to be applicable to all times and all places. I wonder, it seems very challenging how to apply what you read in the purport of the first verse that you read. How can it apply to Kali Yuga? Because it seemed to say categorically that if one is very lusty, then he won't get famous, he won't get rich, he won't have even material. But take Bertrand Russell, the most famous philosopher of the 20th century. He was well known as a womanizer, and he was also an earl of something. You're from. And then also Ernest Hemingway, one of the most famous writers of all times. He was certified womanizer and, in general, material enjoyer, and he had the ways and the means. Of course, at the end, he committed suicide because he couldn't enjoy anymore. But that's throughout most of his life. And there are many, many examples. So it seems to run counter to what we're hearing in the first purport, where it's not just saying that they'll go to hell or they're sinful and they won't go back to God. It's saying they won't even get material benefits like fame and wealth and all that. But we see such direct, I have to put in the word apparent, contradictions to that. That was one question I had.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very deep and nice question. Thank you. Just a couple of things come to my mind as you were speaking, and I'll obviously ask others, seniors here, to input. To me, it seems like though they may be enjoying that desire, but whether there is real enjoyment in that, yes, somebody can be famous by writing something or singing about something, and they have a few followers. But ultimately, the fame that we seek is not the material fame in that sense, because ultimately what we're trying to do is to understand the eternality of our progress. So, though in the material world it may seem famous, but actually, what is the legacy that has been left? What is the actual purpose? It's just temporary, related only to the material world. It's not really taking them any forward to the spiritual consciousness, which is eternal. And so, the way I sort of read the purport is that they'll only degrade their life like cats and dogs. Their next life, unfortunately, when he committed suicide, he's now become a ghost. And so therefore, he wants to enjoy materially, but can't, because he's a ghost. Then once his next body is ready, probably a cat or a dog, then they're enjoying in a cat and dog body, but unfortunately still in the material world. So there's a couple of thoughts come into my mind. Others can...
Just one other thing, if I can quickly
Yes,
say this. I think it would be kind of almost a type of negligence if, or a type of cowardice, we can say, if we didn't grab the bull by the horns. And we have to note how much the Bhāgavatam talks from a masculine point of view, through the lens of the men's psychology, and it's warning the men, don't become a dancing dog in the hands of a woman.
Yes.
And of course, this is a head-on collision with what is politically correct nowadays. And this is a big issue in ISKCON. How do we deal with the current way of thinking, and what we hear in the Bhāgavatam? The whole Bhāgavatam seems like male chauvinist to them or something. I know it's a big topic, but...
I mean, it's a very good point. That's always the next part, the second part of the purport in the next verse. In the Kali Yuga, as we know, and as we were seeing in Times Square and all over the world, in reality, do we really have men who are men and women who are women these days? Everyone's switching all over the place. Sometimes men are becoming like women, and women are becoming like men, and there's everything in between. And so, unfortunate degradation of this Kali Yuga. Okay, we're protected by the 10,000 years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's golden age, but the fact is still the same. Whether they are dancing puppets in hands of men or women, in this Kali Yuga, it makes little difference. They're still dancing. They're still controlled by their lusty desires. And this is the point. And Prabhupada is not saying that to make any inferior comments. Prabhupada is saying that get out of the material conception of life. You're spiritual souls. Understand that we are spiritual beings trying to get back to our original state, back home, back to Godhead. That comes to mind. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to be offering a tour of Srila Prabhupada's places on the Upper West Side, where he stayed for the first 6 months of his stay in New York, from October 1965 all the way through April of 1966, basically along West 72nd Street. We're going to be performing Harinam Sankirtan at Columbus Circle, 59th Street, the entrance to Central Park, which is just nearby, a short walk. So at the completion of Harinam, when we pack up at 7:15, the tour will begin, and it takes about 1 hour. So if anybody is interested, that is the information. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions? I'm conscious that the time is 9:05. Anything from the ladies? Yes.
I'm still waiting to hear an answer from I'm sorry. I'm interested to hear a response to Maharaj's question.
To the one about the womanhood. So the first answer. So the first answer that came to my mind when I was answering. Okay, I'll answer the second one. The second one I said that although Prabhupada mentions woman it may seem in a derogatory way, but actually that is not the intention of Srila Prabhupada. Because look what he actually did when he came. His actions are speaking louder than his words, as it were, right? Because he empowered women to do so many things in Krishna consciousness. He empowered them to do pujaris, he created brahmachari ashrams, he created so many things. He actually empowered so many women to do wonderful things in Krishna consciousness. So how can that personality be writing something derogatory towards women? No. What he's trying to do, he's trying to say is that the intelligence, the women are more intelligent, however, they are more innocent, in that they can be easily misled by unscrupulous men. And that is actually because, emotions, as we know, there's intelligent quotients, emotion quotients, and spiritual quotients. The emotion quotients of females are higher, and therefore they can be easily misled. And therefore, he guards us against unscrupulous men trying to exploit women in that way. That's something comes to mind, yeah.
I think the mistake starts when we're identifying ourselves with this body.
Yes.
I'm a man or I'm a woman.
Yeah.
So once we don't have that understanding, if I'm just a servant of Krishna and we're all servants of Krishna, then the difference will become relatively less. Even the other day that point was made in the class that everyone, the wise soul sees everyone on an equal level, but still that doesn't mean that if I'm coming along a tiger that I'm embracing him. So the same thing, we're all servants of Krishna, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Srila Prabhupada. So we don't need to embrace each other if we're a little bit different in nature, but we could see each other with a loving eyes instead of with a lusting eyes. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, maybe you'd like to add something?
Yeah, I know we're going a little over time. In answer to Mataji's concern, it's not the woman's fault. In Bhāgavatam, there's a verse. It said, men are like butter pot and woman is like fire. So that's the nature. It's not that butter or fire, which is better, butter or fire. It's not about that. It's the man has the responsibility, if he's going to let himself get melted by unnecessarily associating with women, then it's his fault. So it's actually, it's not like the blame goes to the woman. It's the men have to be serious, is the point.
Man good, woman good, together bad.
You can take the mic.
About how material, the one in the first purport where it says the material, what was it that you remember?
Yeah, so it's saying that one cannot be successful even materially, but Maharaj was pointing out that so many very gross materialists are successful in their right. Something like that.
And I responded by saying that maybe this one tiny speck of their life, but as they're progressing through, they're getting a body of cats and dogs. So where is that eternality? Whereas spiritual progress in this path will make them eternally famous. So that was one of my response. But Maharaj may want to add something more.
I can go on for hours. I have to catch a flight, and I think...
Sure. Vaisheshika Prabhu, would you like to maybe comment on anything?
Yes, thank you for for being so learned and holding forth here in New York. It's a great value to the world. It's a great value to the world what you're doing, cultivating the knowledge of Prabhupada's books and then so eloquently speaking on them to individuals, to groups, and may you flourish in all ways and continue your beautiful service. Hare Krishna.
Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Grantha Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Mahapuran ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi.